After my stroke, my daughter accused me of extortion because I asked her for money for medicine. Her exact words were, "You keep pressuring me for cash, Dad." That's financial manipulation. It's basically extortion. I was sitting at her kitchen table with a plastic pill organizer in front of me and a hospital bracelet still around my wrist. I wasn't asking for a sports car. I was asking for $68 so I could breathe without my chest burning. She thought I was too weak, too grateful, too desperate to ever push back. She was wrong. I'm 72 years old. I spent 45 of those years climbing ladders and crawling under houses as a licensed electrician in Columbus, Ohio. My knees ache when it rains, and my right hand goes numb if I hold a coffee mug too long, but for most of my life I've been steady as they come. Widower, grandfather of 3, and apparently, extortionist. The stroke hit on a Tuesday morning in late March. One minute I was pouring coffee. The next my right arm felt like it weighed 100 pounds, and my tongue turned into wet concrete. I don't remember much about the ambulance ride, but I remember my daughter's voice in the ER. "Oh my God, Dad, what did you do to yourself now?" Her name is Laura. 43, marketing manager, always busy, always important. She lives in a nice subdivision called Maple Ridge with her husband Greg and their kids, Tyler and Mia. 3 years ago, when Greg lost his job, I took out a home equity line of credit on my paid-off little house and handed them the down payment for theirs. "Consider it an investment in my grandchildren's stability," I told them. Nobody used the word extortion then. After the stroke, the hospital social worker said I couldn't go straight back home alone. I needed help for at least a couple of months: meds, shower chair, someone to make sure I didn't fall and break my neck when my right leg got tired and dragged. Laura sighed loud enough for half the floor to hear. "Fine, he can stay with us. For now. But I can't do everything." So that's how I ended up in the guest room that used to be their home office, surrounded by white IKEA furniture and boxes of Greg's trophies from college baseball glory days. My clothes were crammed into a plastic dresser. My walker leaned against a wall they hadn't bothered to patch since moving in. "Dad, you're lucky we have space," Laura said the first night. "Most people don't." I was grateful. I was also exhausted, scared, and more aware than anyone that my body had betrayed me. At first, I tried to be the easy kind of patient. I did every physical therapy exercise. I wrote down when I took each pill. I pushed myself to the bathroom instead of asking for help if I could stand. I even tried to joke. "Look at that," I told. After my stroke, my daughter accused me of extortion because I asked her for money for medicine. Her exact words were, "You keep pressuring me for cash, Dad." That's financial manipulation. It's basically extortion. I was sitting at her kitchen table with a plastic pill organizer in front of me and a hospital bracelet still around my wrist. I wasn't asking for a sports car. I was asking for $68 so I could breathe without my chest burning. She thought I was too weak, too grateful, too desperate to ever push back. She was wrong. I'm 72 years old. I spent 45 of those years climbing ladders and crawling under houses as a licensed electrician in Columbus, Ohio. My knees ache when it rains, and my right hand goes numb if I hold a coffee mug too long, but for most of my life I've been steady as they come. Widower, grandfather of 3, and apparently, extortionist. The stroke hit on a Tuesday morning in late March. One minute I was pouring coffee. The next my right arm felt like it weighed 100 pounds, and my tongue turned into wet concrete. I don't remember much about the ambulance ride, but I remember my daughter's voice in the ER. "Oh my God, Dad, what did you do to yourself now?" Her name is Laura. 43, marketing manager, always busy, always important. She lives in a nice subdivision called Maple Ridge with her husband Greg and their kids, Tyler and Mia. 3 years ago, when Greg lost his job, I took out a home equity line of credit on my paid-off little house and handed them the down payment for theirs. "Consider it an investment in my grandchildren's stability," I told them. Nobody used the word extortion then. After the stroke, the hospital social worker said I couldn't go straight back home alone. I needed help for at least a couple of months. Meds, shower chair, someone to make sure I didn't fall and break my neck when my right leg got tired and dragged. Laura sighed loud enough for half the floor to hear. Fine, he can stay with us. For now. But I can't do everything. So that I don't have millions. I have a modest pension, some savings, and the house I nearly broke my back to pay off. Still, a few days later, I saw a charge I didn't recognize when I opened my online bank account on Laura's laptop while she was at work. $219.36. Sports Hub Pro equipment. I scrolled further. $87.50. Prime Steakhouse. $62.90. Ultra Cinemas. I hadn't bought any gym gear or steak dinners since before my stroke. I'd been eating low-sodium hospital mush and wearing socks with grippers on the bottom. That night at dinner, I cleared my throat. Laura, did you buy something on my card? I asked quietly. A gym thing or dinner? Her fork clinked against her plate. Greg's jaw tightened. We're fronting all your costs right now, Laura said. Gas, time, groceries, taking you to appointments. If Greg used your card a couple of times, consider it paying us back. Fronting my costs? I repeated. Honey, my Social Security and pension? Don't honey me, she snapped. You're not exactly rolling in cash, Dad. We're keeping you out of a nursing home. Those places aren't cheap. The kids went quiet. Tyler stared at his peas. Mia twisted a napkin into a rope. I let it go. I told myself she was overwhelmed. I told myself she didn't mean it. If there's one thing you learn getting old, it's that sometimes you swallow your pride because the alternative costs more than you can afford. But the little things kept stacking up. Dad, can you watch the kids tomorrow? Greg and I both have meetings. Don't make it a big deal. You're just sitting on the couch anyway. Dad, try not to use so much hot water. Our bill jumped last month. Dad, did you move my mail? I can't find the credit card statement, and I know you were in the kitchen earlier. I was grateful to be alive. I was grateful not to be in some underfunded rehab facility. I was also tired of being treated like a faulty appliance they'd dragged into their living room out of obligation. Then came the moment with the medicine. It was a Wednesday afternoon. Rain tapped against the kitchen windows. My right arm was heavy, so I was using my left hand to line up the pill bottles. 2 of them were down to only a few tablets. 1 was completely empty. Hey, Laura, I called. Can you come here a second? She walked in, phone in hand, earbuds in, eyebrows already pinched. Can you make it fast? I'm finishing something for a client. I'm out of the blood pressure one and almost out of the cholesterol, I said, tapping the labels with my fingertip. The pharmacy said it's $68 for the refill this month after insurance. Could you put it on your card and I'll pay you back when my check hits on Monday? I didn't think it was a big ask. She pulled an earbud out and just stared at me. $68, she repeated. I know it's not nothing, I said quickly. If it's easier, I can call the doctor and ask if there's a cheaper alternative. But they said this is the one that's working after the stroke, and Do you hear yourself? She said suddenly. Her voice got louder, sharper. Do you ever stop to think how this sounds? I blinked. How what sounds? You, she said, jabbing a finger toward me. Always with the just this once, I'll pay you back later, and it's for my medicine, and remember all I've done for you, Laura. You are constantly pressuring me for money. Pressuring you? I whispered. You know what that's called? She went on. Extortion. Emotional extortion. Financial extortion. Pick a term. You're guilt-tripping your own daughter to get into her wallet. I looked at the orange bottles in front of me. Laura, I had a stroke, I said. I'm trying to take the pills they gave me so I don't have another one and drop dead on your tile floor. Oh, here we go, she said. Drop dead. Do you even hear the drama? You always go right for the worst-case scenario, so I'll feel bad. Greg walked into the kitchen midway through this, holding a beer. What's going on? Your father-in-law is accusing me of letting him die if I don't pay for his meds, Laura said. Again. I could see something in his eyes. Annoyance, boredom, opportunity. Ed, he said, we've been shouldering everything for months. My job still hasn't bounced back fully. We're not bottomless. You can't keep shaking us down every time a bill comes up. Shaking you down, I repeated. The phrase tasted like metal in my mouth. It wasn't just the words. It was the fact that neither one of them glanced at the hospital bracelet still indented on my wrist. That might have been the last straw if the next part hadn't happened. Laura's phone buzzed in her hand. She put it on speaker without even looking first. Hey, girl, a woman's voice said. I recognized it. Her friend Carrie. You still on for wine night Friday? Maybe, Laura said, rolling her eyes. My dad is in one of his moods again. Oh no, Carrie groaned. What's he doing now? Same thing, Laura said. Guilt, guilt, guilt. Can you pay for my medicine, Laura? Do you want me to die, Laura? I'm telling you, it's like dealing with a teenager. He knows I can't say no, so he keeps pushing. It's getting abusive. Greg snorted. Tell her you're being extorted in your own house. They laughed. I sat there at the table, invisible, listening to my daughter describe me like some scam artist cold-calling old ladies for their bank information. That's when something in me went very, very quiet. Not broken, just quiet. While they talked around me, like I was a piece of furniture that occasionally asked for water, I looked past them at the fridge, at that calendar with the red squares, at the copy of the mortgage statement I'd noticed pinned under a magnet last week. Laura and Greg owed $326,000 on this house. I'd seen the numbers. I also knew exactly how much they still owed me from the line of credit I'd taken for their down payment 4 years ago. There was a promissory note in my fireproof box back at my house with both their signatures on it. $50,000. We'll pay you back in 5 years, Dad, with interest. They had never paid back a single cent. Extortion, I thought. Interesting choice of word. That night, long after everyone else went to bed, I lay awake in that guest room, listening to the hum of the house. My right leg tingled. My heart felt like a stubborn engine trying to keep its rhythm. I stared at the ceiling and replayed every scene from the last few months. The way Laura sighed every time I asked for a ride. The way Greg used my card for his steak dinners and called it payback. The way my grandchildren flinched when voices got too loud. I could keep swallowing it. I could keep apologizing for needing help while my brain healed from a blood clot it hadn't asked for. Or I could remember who I was before the hospital gown and the walker. I am not rich, but I am not helpless. I am not young, but I am not stupid. I realized, lying there in the dim hallway light, that I had more power than they wanted to admit, and I was done letting them pretend otherwise. The first step of my plan was simple. I needed information and I needed distance. The next morning, Laura left early to drop the kids at school and go to the office. Greg claimed he was working from home but went to the gym instead, judging by the way the front door opened and closed and the absence of his heavy tread upstairs. I waited until the house was quiet. Then I maneuvered myself to the little desk in the corner of the guest room. My hand shook as I picked up my phone, not from fear, but from the lingering weakness on my right side. I scrolled to a number I hadn't called in years. Hello? Mark, it's Ed. My nephew Mark lives across town. He's 50, a CPA, married to a woman who actually seems to like him. We see each other on holidays and birthdays. I've always liked his steady way of talking. Uncle Ed, he said, how are you? I heard about the stroke. Why didn't you call me sooner? Because I was busy believing my daughter had my best interest at heart, I wanted to say. Doing better, I said instead. I need a favor, a ride to my house and a pair of eyes on some paperwork. Today? He asked. If you can, I said, before I start extorting the neighborhood. There was a beat of silence. Ah, he said quietly. I see. He picked me up an hour later. I told Laura I had a longer PT session and Mark was taking me. She barely looked up from her laptop. Fine, she said. Just text me when you're on your way back. I have a hair appointment at 4. My little house on Sycamore Street looked smaller than I remembered. Or maybe the Maple Ridge subdivision had made everything else look bigger, shinier. The paint on my siding was a little faded. The maple tree in the front yard needed trimming. The ceramic frog Margaret painted before she died still sat by the front steps, chipped but cheerful. I gripped my cane and felt something in my chest unclench. This is still yours free and clear? Mark asked as we stepped inside. Yes, I said. Except for the $48,000 left on the line of credit, the one I took to help Laura and Greg with their down payment. He nodded slowly. You got paperwork? I pointed to the hall closet. Lockbox, keys in the flower jar. While he dug it out, I sat at the kitchen table, the same table Laura learned multiplication at when she was 10. He came back with a stack of folders and a careful expression. Uncle Ed, he said, laying everything out. You know you're still listed as primary owner on this house, right? That line of credit is secured by this place, not by theirs. I know, I said. I also know this house is worth about $250,000 now, and I only owe the 48. He flipped to another set of papers. And this is the promissory note, he added. $50,000 from them to you. You kept this? I may be old, I said, but I'm not careless. He smiled faintly. You're also not poor, he added, glancing at my savings account statements. You could pay off this line of credit tomorrow if you wanted, or sell the house, pay it off, and still have about $200,000 cash. I let that sink in. My daughter thought I was dangling by a financial thread, dependent on her goodwill to keep from falling. She had no idea I was standing on a concrete floor with the deed in my hand. Tell me something, Mark, I said. If someone is living with you, using your money, calling you a burden, and accusing you of extortion, what options does a man like me have? He studied my face for a long moment. As your nephew, he said, I'd say move out, lock the door, and don't look back. And as a CPA? He tapped the promissory note. Well, legally, they owe you $50,000, he said. And technically, if they're using your card without consent, that's elder financial abuse. At the very least, you should stop letting them control any of your accounts. I thought about Laura's voice saying extortion like it tasted bad. What if I told you they're also talking about sending me to a nursing home? I asked quietly. Not one of the good ones. Mark's jaw clenched. Then I'd say you also need an elder law attorney, he said. And soon. We spent the next 3 hours at my kitchen table. We called my bank and arranged to have a new debit card mailed to my house instead of Laura's. We moved most of my savings into a separate account with only my name on it. We confirmed that the Social Security and pension deposits could be changed to this new account with a few forms. Mark printed everything out on the dusty old printer in my bedroom. Then he made another call. Hi, this is Mark Hastings, he said. I'd like to make an appointment for my uncle with attorney Susan Franklin. I understand she specializes in elder law. While he spoke, my eyes drifted to a photograph on the wall. It was Laura at 23 in her cap and gown. I remembered the day I wrote the last check to cover the part of her tuition the scholarship didn't. She hugged my neck and whispered, I'll pay you back one day, Dad. You'll see. I wondered if she even remembered saying it. The second hook in all this came that night, and I didn't go looking for it. It found me. I'd gone to bed early, claiming a headache. Really, I was just tired from holding myself upright all afternoon. A stroke changes more than your gait. It changes how long you can wear your own body. Around 10 p.m., I woke up thirsty. My mouth felt like sandpaper and my tongue stuck to my teeth. The house was mostly dark. A sliver of light spilled under the door from the hallway. I reached for my cane and started toward the kitchen, moving carefully, one foot, then the other. Voices floated from the living room. Laura and Greg. I should have cleared my throat, announced myself. Instead, I paused just inside the hallway where they couldn't see me. I'm telling you, we can't keep this up, Greg was saying. His voice was low, urgent. He's costing us money every month. Laura sighed. What do you want me to do, Greg? Throw him out on the street? He's my father. You don't have to throw him out, he said. You just have to be realistic. We're drowning in debt, and he's sitting on a paid-off house and whatever's left of his savings. He forgets things. He fell last week and lied about it to the doctor. You said so yourself. That's cognitive decline. That's leverage. My grip tightened on the cane. I hadn't lied. I'd simply underplayed the fall because I was tired of being poked and prodded. Leverage? Laura repeated. If we get medical documentation, we can petition the court for guardianship, Greg continued. Then we control his finances legally. We can sell his house, pay off his line of credit, and finally get ahead. He'll be safer in a facility anyway. Laura was quiet for a beat. And what if he refuses? She asked. Greg laughed. He's in no position to refuse, he said. He can barely walk to the bathroom without wheezing. You heard him earlier, begging for money for pills. All you have to do is keep good records of how much care we're providing and how irrational he's being with money. That extortion thing you mentioned? Perfect example. My heart pounded so hard I thought they'd hear it. Extortion. Again. I listened to my own child calmly discuss how to get legal control over my life like she was scheduling a dentist appointment. I don't know, she said. It feels harsh. So does bankruptcy, Greg answered flatly. So does foreclosure. He put us in this position when he insisted on taking out that line of credit instead of letting us rent. He wanted to play hero. Heroes pay the price. I leaned my forehead gently against the wall. Whatever softness was left in me toward them burned off like fog in sunlight. I wasn't going to shout. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to let them walk straight into the trap they were building, while I quietly moved every piece they thought they controlled. The next day, Mark drove me to Attorney Franklin's office. She was in her 50s with sharp eyes and a calm voice, the kind of woman who'd spent her life listening to complicated stories and pulling the truth out by its roots. Tell me everything, she said, clicking her pen. So I did. I told her about the stroke, the move, the calendar on the fridge. I told her about the fronting your costs comment and the charges on my card. I told her about the extortion accusation over my meds and the conversation I'd overheard about guardianship. I did not cry, but my voice shook when I talked about Laura as a little girl, how she used to sit on my shoulders at the county fair and squeal when she saw the Ferris wheel. When I finished, the room was quiet except for the muffled hum of traffic outside. All right, she said finally. Here's what we're going to do. She laid it out, step by step, in a way even my post-stroke brain could follow. First, we revoke any existing powers of attorney if you've given them, she said. Have you? No, I said. We talked about it once, but nothing was signed. Good, she said. Second, we make new ones. You choose someone you trust to handle medical and financial decisions if you become incapacitated. That person doesn't have to be your daughter. Mark, I said immediately. He looked surprised, then nodded. Third, she continued, we prepare a simple revocable living trust. Your house goes into the trust. Your accounts can too. That way, if anyone tries to petition for guardianship or control, there's a clear legal structure that shows you've already made plans while you're competent. And Laura? I asked quietly. Fourth, she added, we document what's been happening. Do you have any proof of the unauthorized charges or the conversations? I have bank statements, I said, and my nephew heard part of what Greg recommended yesterday on speakerphone when I called him right after. Good, she said. We'll also file a brief informational report with Adult Protective Services, not to have her arrested necessarily, but to create a paper trail. If they do try to claim you're incompetent while draining your accounts, it will not look good for them." She paused, then gave me a small, fierce smile. "And finally," she said, "we help you move out. You are not obligated to live with someone who calls you a burden while using your money. I have a list of reputable assisted living facilities and senior apartments nearby. With your assets, you can choose somewhere comfortable." It was a lot. Stroke fatigue is real. Halfway through, my brain felt like thick mud, but beneath the exhaustion was a current of something I hadn't felt since before Margaret died. Control. Fear still sat in my chest like a stone, but it was no longer the only thing there. We spent that afternoon signing things. My shaky signature took up too much space on each line. Mark initialed where he needed to. Attorney Franklin slid each paper into a neat stack with a practiced hand. "Now," she said, "how do you want to handle telling your daughter?" I thought about Laura's face when she threw the word extortion at me like a rock. "I don't," I said. "Not yet." I wanted her to learn the way I had. Suddenly, unmistakably, with no room left to pretend. So we built the rest of the plan around that. Over the next 2 weeks, I played the part they expected. I asked politely for rides to therapy. I thanked Laura for every plate of reheated lasagna she slid in front of me. I watched Tyler's soccer games from a folding chair on the sidelines, the way I always had, cheering until my throat hurt even when my leg throbbed. I did not confront them about the conversation I'd overheard. I did not mention the meeting with the lawyer. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, pieces moved. My new debit card came to my house and stayed there. My Social Security deposit switched to the new account. The deed to my house transferred into the Ed Thompson Living Trust, with Mark as successor trustee. I picked out a small apartment in a senior complex 15 minutes from my house. Elevator, grab bars, a little balcony that faced a dog park. The rent was reasonable. With the proceeds from selling my house, which we planned for later, I could cover it comfortably for the rest of my life. We set a date, not for the move, for the reveal. "Call a family meeting," Attorney Franklin suggested. "If they're really planning to petition for guardianship, they'll think you're caving. Invite them to what sounds like a financial planning session. I'll be there with the paperwork." So on a Monday evening in late April, I cleared my throat at dinner. "Laura," I said, "I have an appointment Wednesday at 4 with a financial planner downtown. I want you and Greg to come with me. It's time we talked about the future." Her eyes lit up. "Finally," she said. "Honestly, Dad, I'm relieved you're being reasonable about this. I was just telling Greg we need to get ahead of things before there's a crisis." Greg grinned like a man who'd just gotten a promotion. "You won't regret this, Ed," he said. I doubted that. Wednesday came. Mark picked me up, helped me into a clean button-down shirt and the good slacks Margaret used to like. "You ready?" he asked. "I've been ready since she called me an extortionist for needing my heart pills," I said. The financial planner's office was really Attorney Franklin's conference room. Dark wood table, comfortable rolling chairs, a framed diploma on the wall. Laura and Greg swept in 5 minutes late. Laura wore her serious blazer. Greg wore a tie for the first time since their last job interview. "Dad," Laura said, kissing the air next to my cheek, "this is so good. We can really get organized now." Greg shook Mark's hand like they were colleagues. "Thanks for helping us convince him," he said. Mark just smiled with his mouth, not his eyes. Attorney Franklin stepped in, file folder in hand. "Good afternoon, everyone," she said. "I'm Susan Franklin. Your father has asked me to help him put some plans in place." "Great," Laura said, sitting down. "We've been worried about his decision-making since the stroke, so it's a relief he's getting professional help." Susan's eyebrows flicked up just slightly. "I see," she said. Well, I can assure you, after meeting with your father extensively, he's perfectly capable of making his own decisions at this time. Greg coughed. Respectfully, we live with him, he said. He forgets things all the time. And he's made some questionable financial choices, like demanding cash from us for his prescriptions when he knows we're already stretched thin. Demanding, I repeated softly. Susan set the folder down and folded her hands. Let's start with that, she said. Mr. Thompson, did you demand money from your daughter under threat or coercion? No, I said. I asked if she could put my refill on her card, and I'd pay her back 5 days later when my check came. I was out of medicine. Laura gave a short, sharp laugh. He's also very talented at playing the victim, she said. It's interesting you use the word extortion, Susan said mildly, sliding a sheet of paper across the table. Because I've reviewed your father's bank statements. On the top page, rows of transactions were highlighted in yellow. Laura glanced down. What is this? She asked. These are charges from the last 3 months on a card ending in 7723, Susan said. A card in your father's name. Greg's face went a little pale. Those were reimbursements, he said quickly. We front costs, then use his card to even things out. That might be more convincing, Susan said, if your father weren't already contributing his entire Social Security check to household expenses, and if these charges didn't include things like Ultra Cinemas and Sports Hub Pro equipment. Laura shifted in her seat. We take him to the movies sometimes, she said. I haven't been to a movie theater since 2019, I said quietly. Susan didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. What your father has experienced here, she said, looking from one of them to the other, is very close to the legal definition of elder financial exploitation. Using an older adult's funds for purposes other than their benefit without explicit informed consent. Laura's mouth opened and closed. That's not what this is, she said. We're family. We've taken him in. Do you know what it's like rearranging your entire life around someone else's medical issues? I'm sure it's challenging, Susan said. But that doesn't change the facts. And the facts are these. Your father remains mentally competent. He has chosen to place his assets into a revocable living trust. He has appointed your cousin Mark as his primary agent for financial decisions in the event he becomes incapacitated. And he has decided to move to an independent senior apartment rather than continue living in your home. Silence fell over the room like a dropped blanket. What? Laura whispered. I'm moving out, I said, meeting her eyes. Next week. The paperwork is already signed. You can't do that, Greg blurted. You can't just cut us out and let Mark take everything. You owe us. I owe you? I repeated. Years of tiny insults rose up behind my ribs. I owe you for the nights I drove across town with soup when the kids had the flu? For the $50,000 I pulled out of the walls of my retirement so you could live in Maple Ridge instead of a rental by the highway? For the 3 months I spent sleeping in a hospital chair when Tyler was born early so Laura could rest while I paced the halls? Susan slid another document across the table. This, she said calmly, is the promissory note for $50,000, signed by both of you. You agreed to repay your father within 5 years. It's been 4. To date, you have made no payments. Laura stared at the paper. I forgot about that, she murmured. I didn't, I said. Susan went on, relentless but not cruel. Your father has instructed me to begin formal collection proceedings on this note, she said. You will receive a separate letter outlining repayment options. Additionally, if there are any future unauthorized transactions on his accounts, we will not hesitate to involve Adult Protective Services. An informational report has already been filed. You filed a report on us? Laura's voice went high and thin. You reported your own daughter? You called me an extortionist in my own hearing, I said. You talked about using my stroke as leverage to get control of my money. I heard you. Greg's face turned the color of unbaked dough. "You were eavesdropping," he said. "I was walking to the kitchen for water," I answered, "and I stood there listening to the mother of my grandchildren discuss where to send me so you could sell my house." Laura's eyes filled with tears. "It's not like that," she said. "We were scared. We're in debt. We didn't know what to do. You took out that line of credit for us and then made us feel guilty every time we couldn't pay extra. You—" "I didn't make you feel anything," I said quietly. "You did that yourself when you started choosing steak dinners and gym memberships over honoring your word." The room was so quiet I could hear the clock ticking on the wall. Susan cleared her throat softly. "There's one more document," she said. "This is your father's updated will. In his previous version, you were the primary beneficiary of his estate." Laura's head snapped up. "Were?" she repeated. "Were," Susan confirmed. "In his new will, he has chosen to leave a modest bequest to each of his grandchildren in a protected education fund. The remainder is allocated to his nephew and several charitable causes, including the stroke recovery center that helped him regain his mobility." Greg slammed his palm on the table. "This is insane," he said. "You're letting some lawyer and a part-time CPA poison you against your own family. We've done everything for you." I looked at him, really looked. At the expensive watch on his wrist, at the way his jaw flexed when money was on the line. "You've done some things for me," I said. "You also took a sick man's wallet and called him a burden when he asked for air." Laura stood abruptly, chair screeching. "So that's it?" she demanded. "You're abandoning us?" "No," I said. I levered myself to my feet, every muscle protesting, but I did it without help. "I'm stopping you from abandoning me while you strip everything I worked for down to the studs," I said. "There's a difference." For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Susan gathered the papers. "This meeting is over," she said calmly. "We'll be in touch about the logistics of Mr. Thompson's move and the repayment schedule for the promissory note." Laura stared at me with something like hatred and hurt twisted together. "You'll regret this," she said. I picked up my cane. "I already regret letting it go on this long," I answered. They walked out without looking back. On the drive home, my home, the one on Sycamore Street, Mark glanced at me. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm tired," I said, "but I'm more okay than I've been in months." The consequences started arriving faster than I expected. Within a week, Laura's texts multiplied. "Dad, can we talk? Dad, this isn't fair. Dad, the kids are asking why you're punishing us." I answered once. "I'm not punishing anyone. I'm protecting myself. I love the kids. I'm happy to see them here anytime you bring them." After that, I kept my phone on silent more often than not. 2 weeks later, Greg called Mark to discuss the note, pretending I wasn't in the room. "50,000 in 60 days? That's impossible," he said. "We're open to a payment plan," Mark replied. "But there will be interest. That's in the original terms you both signed." "This is extortion," Greg snapped. Mark laughed once without humor. "You might want to pick a different word," he said, "given the circumstances." I moved into the senior apartment complex in mid-May. The day I wheeled my last box into the elevator, the building manager, a woman with curly gray hair named Denise, patted my arm. "You'll like it here," she said. "We have bingo on Thursdays, movie nights, and a walking group. No one expects you to babysit anyone's kids unless you want to." My place was small, but bright. A recliner by the window. A little kitchen big enough for one person to cook simple meals. A bedroom with a bed that didn't creak every time I exhaled. On the first morning, I sat on the balcony with a mug of coffee and watched a golden retriever chase a tennis ball in the dog park below. My legs still tingled. My right arm still felt weaker than it used to. But for the first time since the stroke, my shoulders weren't hunched waiting for the next accusation. A few months later, I heard through my sister that Laura and Greg had to sell their fancy SUV and downgrade to a used sedan. The mortgage company reassessed their risk after the promissory note collection hit their credit. Adult Protective Services did a brief home visit with them, just enough to make Greg nervous about how he spoke in public. Nothing dramatic happened. No handcuffs, no court-ordered apologies. Real life rarely gives you that kind of neatness. But neighbors talk. Word got around that there'd been some issues with how they handled my finances. Funny thing about reputation, once people see a crack, they start looking closer. As for me, I kept my routines. I went to PT twice a week. I joined the building's walking group, even if my walk looked more like a determined shuffle. I brought cookies to the front desk on Fridays because I like seeing people smile when they aren't asking me for anything. Tyler and Mia started visiting every other Sunday. At first, Laura hovered in the doorway like a guard. "We won't stay long," she said. "We don't want to tire you out." I looked past her to the kids. "How about you come back in 2 hours?" I said gently. "We'll be fine." She hesitated, then nodded. The first few visits were awkward. Tyler was taller. Mia had braces. They looked at the grab bars in my bathroom and the emergency pull cord by my bed like they were museum exhibits. But kids adapt faster than adults. By the third Sunday, Mia was asking if she could decorate my fridge with her drawings. "Can I hang this one here, Grandpa?" she asked, holding up a picture of a lopsided house. "Only if you promise to keep drawing them," I said. Tyler helped me set up my TV so we could watch the game together. "Mom says you're mad at her," he blurted at one point. "I'm hurt," I said, "and I'm not letting people use me anymore. That's different from being mad." "Are you still my grandpa?" he asked. "Always," I said. I didn't badmouth their parents. I didn't need to. Children are sharper than we think. They see who shows up. They see who apologizes and who doesn't. Laura did come by alone once, months later. She stood in my doorway, twisting her car keys. "You look good," she said finally. "Better than you did at our house." "I feel better," I said. She nodded, eyes shiny. "I was overwhelmed," she said. "That's not an excuse. I felt like everything was on my shoulders. The kids, the house, your health, Greg's job situation. When you asked for money, I heard, 'You're failing again, Laura.'" "So you threw extortion at me," I said. She flinched. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I studied her face, the lines that had deepened around her mouth, the gray starting at her temples. "You hurt me," I said. "Deeply. You made me feel like a beggar in front of my own grandchildren. You talked about putting me away like I was a problem to be solved." "I know," she said, tears spilling now. "I hate myself for it." "I don't want you to hate yourself," I said. "I want you to do better. For your kids. For yourself. And you need to know there are consequences." She nodded. "I heard you changed the will," she said, voice small. "I did," I said. "I won't be changing it back." She swallowed hard. "Okay," she said. "I guess I deserve that." "You deserve to live within your means and stand on your own feet," I said. "You're capable. You always were. I just made it easy not to." We stood there in the quiet hallway of my building, surrounded by the distant sound of someone's television and the smell of someone else's soup. "I still love you, Dad," she said. "I still love you too," I answered. "But I love myself enough now not to let you call me an extortionist, when all I did was ask for help." She left with her shoulders a little straighter. Maybe she'll change. Maybe she won't. That part of the story isn't entirely mine to write. What is mine is this. I wake up in a place I chose, with my own name on the lease and my own keys in my hand. I take the medicine I need without begging anyone for $50. I see my grandchildren on my terms. I am not afraid of my own child anymore. These days, when I think about the word extortion, I don't picture myself at my daughter's kitchen table asking for heart pills. I picture the look on her face in that conference room when she realized the old man she thought she was cornering had already walked out of the trap and locked the door behind him.
My grandpa's words really happened. I believe him. If you want more true tales stories like this, hit subscribe.